Have you checked the children? Put your little mess in there.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the horror show. I'm Marcia Parker.
And Jaime Fuego here, and we are getting ready to cruise through another patron request. This is from a longtime supporter, Ms. Marie, and this is a quite recent release actually. I believe it was efficient. It was 2020, but I think it just made its Shudder debut within the last year or so after the festival circuit. But we're talking A Good Woman is Hard to Find.
Whew,
Do you
that
think that's
she
a true
is.
sentiment, Marcia?
That is true. I mean, there's only one of me, so.
Yeah.
So what are your overall thoughts? My overall thoughts is it wasn't a bad movie.
Yeah.
I definitely didn't feel like it was horror, like
That's
we're kind of
what I was
talking
gonna
about.
say, yeah.
But what did you think overall?
I thought the acting was solid. It's an Irish film, if I'm not mistaken.
Very
and
Irish.
yeah. Most notably, really solid stuff from our lead lady, our Mama Bear, who is recently widowed, unfortunately, and she has these two adorable kids who they're obviously going through some personal trauma. One in particular, the son isn't even talking at all.
Correct.
Yeah. And he was there with the father because she wasn't just widowed. The father was killed. There was still an ongoing investigation, and so we'll get into that with story and stuff like that. But it was much more thriller drama, like almost like crime drama sort of situation, as opposed to something of the true horrific accord that we typically review here. So that doesn't mean I disliked it. It was still solid filmmaking, but one of my biggest quips was that despite a few solid performances here and there, most notably from our lead lady, that is very predictable in the writing process, and we get some cool practical gore later in the film. But yeah, I just saw most of everything that was coming like a mile away, and it didn't really differentiate itself from the pack of very similar films that I've seen recently, and over the years. So, yeah.
I agree. I very much agree. It was, like you said, it was more of like a home invasion vengeance movie.
Yep.
It definitely felt like a movie that like Netflix would have like did off of an algorithm, like throwing a bunch of stuff in there and see if it makes something that makes money.
It
that
is International Women's Month right now.
It did
right?
feel like that. Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't, like you said, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Especially for something off of Shudder, I expected something to be more horror than it was.
Yeah.
Because even with home invasions can get pretty scary, but this wasn't really that scary.
Yeah, and I'll say that as we go from overall impressions into just like storytelling and stuff, that without really spoiling the scenario of what the home invasion entails, I never really felt very on edge for her. I never really felt as worried about this borderline kind of hostage situation that's going down with her and her family from this like drug thief who basically just like he stakes claim to her property, and he's
to
being
sell drugs out of it and then give her a cut. And then, like, he would leave and then come back. And I'm like, I don't understand.
She
like,
had opportunities to turn the tables, and it doesn't happen.
She left the house and came back.
Yeah.
And, like...
It's a strained coexistence
Yeah.
that is seemingly acceptable on her part for whatever reason.
Maybe it's a culture thing, too. Like
Perhaps.
Maybe, I mean, I don't know. The only thing is, like, I can think of maybe she was... It's like just like the area, like maybe this happens all the time, and you just kind of you're in and out anyway. But I don't know. I just feel like she had plenty of opportunities to get the cops involved. But then when the cops did come involved, they like were looking at her as she was the villain in the storyline. So it was, I don't know.
Yeah, and also law enforcement was kind of just portrayed as being inept and kind of degaff, especially with regards to the death of her husband and whatever nefarious stuff surrounded it, and
corrupt.
And then she has her like total bitch of a mother who is not very supportive despite the PTSD that both like she's mean to the kids and stuff too. And it does explore in a slightly fascinating fashion her upbringing and the fact that her mother and her were never very close, and the trickle down factor perhaps of all of that. But it's when it goes from the family dramatic dynamic to all of the crime caper sort of stuff, and the drug dealers and stuff like that, as Robert, who's not here sitting with us to discuss this, but he mentioned that he thought it was kind of over the top cartoonish. At least I can kind of second that notion.
Yeah, it was. I don't know. It was, like you said, it was really predictable. The villain was not, like, it looked like she could easily overcome it.
Yeah.
And, like, she just chose not to, in a way. Like,
And there's, like,
you know,
level of villains in this, too.
get
just
out
to
of
keep
my
in mind.
house.
Mhm.
But you're not getting out of my house. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
and,
I don't know.
And it does take if you've seen a lot of this revenge sort of stuff that Marcia was hinting at without us spoiling this, you probably can guess something that starts to happen that finally breaks the camel's back, and when she decides to take charge and fight back. But it's we've seen this over and over and over.
You know, and I almost thought it was gonna go a different way. Like,
I
like,
hoped it would, honestly.
I thought that, like, because there was a moment where, like, you know, one of her kids puts himself in a sticky situation.
Oh,
and,
yes, that's right. I forgot about that.
yeah,
Mhm.
and you know when
Don't get high on your own supply.
when she like was trying to defend him and just be like, you know, he's just a kid, he didn't know what he's doing. I honestly thought the guy was gonna be all, like, because he'd been there and he's like interacting with them as a family, and he's like,
Just really weird.
I thought
dynamic.
he was gonna go like switch it up and be like, is the kid okay? Like,
Mhm.
and not care about like the drugs. Like, I know it's
Maybe
like,
turn a corner himself.
right, and I thought that's where it was going, because
Mhm.
the fact that, like, no one was pushing really hard to get him out of the house, and they were coexisting in a way. Oh, and it didn't go that way.
No, it just basically goes along the lines of what you would expect to happen, and it does get relatively gruesome in the, like, second and third act specifically.
But I
obviously.
thought it was a little too late. I feel like if they were going to go that way, she should have done it a long time ago. She should have done it after the first act and made it kind of a lot more fun.
Yeah, and despite not being like a super long run time, like, this didn't push 2 hours or anything like that. I think it was right in
hour
the
and a
85 to 90 mark, but it felt long
Yeah.
based on the pacing and the fact that you're kind of waiting for something to happen, and then the too little too late, as you said earlier.
Yeah.
Performances, though, I mean, once again, the cartoonishness, not of our villain who kind of invades the home, but of those who are after him. They were the ones who is just a bit much, and, like, I think the main guy has, like, a metal club, if I remember correctly, and it's yeah, it is what it is. I thought she was good, though, and this mother of ours, and, you know, all of the trauma she's dealing with, her mother is appropriately just kind of venomous and stuff, and there is even little bits of humor here and there early in the movie where she's trying to get her vibrator to work, and she's looking for the batteries. I'm like, okay, this movie, maybe it'll have some personality and some, like, kind of laughs about, you know, just darkly comedic situations, but really that's one of the only moments that made me chuckle in the whole movie, and where I felt the humanity, I guess.
Well, I think that's what helped this movie a lot, was, like, in the beginning they really developed her character and her situation, and it seems kind of weird to say, like, they did it by using the vibrator, but it does. It's like, you know, she's all like, oh, I think I'm ready to, like, you know, release some steam, and then, like, oh no, there's no batteries, and then, you know what that's like when you can't find the batteries are out,
you
and
go
you
to
can't
your
find
kids'
anybody.
toys, taking batteries out of your kids' toys,
And, like, finally,
hoping they'll work.
hopefully, like, hoping it works, and thank you, Jesus, it works.
Yeah, which is what she says, if I remember. She's like, thank you, Jesus.
Like, she just needed a fix.
Yeah.
And then I'm like I was like, oh, okay, and it kind of just let you kind of bond with her a little bit in that situation, and then the rest of it happened. You're like, okay, and then you get more redemption at the end when you kind of have, when she's finishing the movie and finishing her, like,
taking
charge,
charge,
doing what she needs to do to get things done, be Mama Bear, and just finally ending the score, settling the score. You know, like, she did a great job there too, and it's like, okay, so the bookends of this movie were really strong, but the middle part of it was just kind of like, you know, like, she's the only one I felt that carried it. And
true, yeah. I mean, the mother was relatively one-dimensional, as the law enforcement was, we talked about, and was the social worker who comes to investigate after the cops come over.
That was kind of funny, though.
Yeah, that was one of the only other aspects where there was some humor, where she was just talking about, well, it goes back to the joke we were just mentioning, and I mean, with some curveballs thrown at us, I think this could have been a lot better than it actually was, despite a very strong performance from our lead lady.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't know if there's that much more to say. She in that aspect, and there's not really. I would say in the effects part, there was
That's
some
what I was
gore.
gonna say.
There is some gore.
There's a
and
body that is pieced up, let's say.
Yeah, and that was done really well. She dextrified the room. She put
and the film starts with that segment, and then we go back in time, and then we get back to her cleaning the blood off of herself and stuff. So that's our opening shot. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. It's not super spoiler. We're gonna get back to it at some particular point, and that instance plays into the confrontation within the finale as well. But aside from that, it's very much that slow burn. It's not ultra violent sort of gangster movie. It's not super gory horrorness, with the exception of a couple bits here and there. So I don't know. Score was fine. I did enjoy kind of the doomy metal we had at Dude's Club and stuff, but that's just because I'm a headbanger in that regard. But I mean, this is I'm not going to go so far as to say a missed opportunity, but Shudder has really been very consistent with a lot of their acquisitions in the last couple of years, and I don't think this is upper tier as far as their exclusives right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie. It just didn't feel like it
not a great
was
movie,
Shudder
though.
material. I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was.
True.
But it definitely was, because I do like home invasions. I like a good storyline, even though it was kind of okay. But I don't know. It wasn't horrific for me enough.
No, not at all, unfortunately. And I do enjoy stuff like, the Guy Ritchie and, things like Layer Cake, his proteges and stuff like that. So I do like violent stuff from the UK of this more crime-centric than horrific nature, but this just wasn't one that I found ultimately memorable. And sadly, Ms. Marie, I know you probably requested it because you enjoyed this one a lot. So, art is subjective, as I always contend on here, but this isn't one that I found as empowering as other things on the channel, being Shudder, like Revenge, for instance, the French movie about the girl who goes back after her crazy psychedelic awakening and extracts her vengeance. I thought that movie was so much better than this one. No family dynamic there, obviously, so maybe if you are a mother like this lady is, it would resonate with you a little bit more. So
yeah, I think I would have acted a little bit sooner if I was her being a mother, especially since he was going in and out of the house.
Dire circumstances like that, the threat being so real and so close in there. I mean,
as soon as I had an opportunity to call the police, I would call the police. So I don't know. It is what it is. But
indeed,
thank you for the opportunity to watch it. I probably wouldn't have watched it otherwise, and I'm glad you guys do push us to watch these different movies and expand our palette, as they say. So thank you, Miss Marie, for being a loyal Patreon and watcher of the horror show and giving us the opportunity to digest A Good Woman Is Hard to Find.
Correctamundo. So I guess that's going to be the end of the proceedings. If you would like to become a patron, all of the information is in the description box thing below. The likes, the shares, the subscribees, all of that is obviously appreciated as well. So until we encounter each other once again, Scarific peeps, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And I'm Marcia Parker.
And remember, stay scared. Woo!